Good morning, dear students. Today in economics, we are going to continue the same chapter, that is sectors of Indian economy. Children, if you remember, in our previous lectures, we have studied about the economic activity in different sectors. Then, how do we count the various goods and services and the total production in each sectors and historical change in the sectors. Children, today we are going to see where are the most of the people employed and why. Children, the primary sector continue to be the largest employer because enough jobs have not been created in the secondary and the tertiary sector. Now children, we will compare the different three sectors with the help of graph between 1973 and 2003, and we will see which sectors has declined or which sector has shown a growth. Now children, which sector do you think has grown the most over last few years? Now we will see this with the help of graph. Now children, this graph presents percentage share of the three sectors in GDP. Now you can directly see the changing importance of the sectors over the 40 years. Children, here the share of the agriculture sector has decreased and that of treasury sector has increased tremendously. This you can see, the treasury sector is shown with the purple color, and see in 1973 and now see in 2003. The share of the agriculture sector has decreased and the share of treasury sector has increased tremendously. Now children, see this graph. Here the share of employment in different sectors are shown. Children, a remarkable fact about India is that while there has been a change in the share of three sectors in GDP, which we have seen just now in the previous slide, but a similar shift has not taken place in employment. This you can see here. The primary sector continued to be the largest employer even now. Why did not similar shift out of the primary sector happen in the case of employment? Children, this is because there is not enough jobs, or enough jobs are not created in the secondary and the tertiary sectors. Children, even though industrial output or the production of goods went up by more than 9 times during the period, employment in the industry went up around 3 times only. That means the production has increased 9 times, but the employment chances in the secondary sector has increased only 3 times. And the same thing we can see here in the tertiary sector also. Here in the service sector, it has rose more than 14 times. Here in the tertiary sector, once again listen children, production in the service sector has went up more than 14 times, 14 times, but employment in this sector rose around 5 times only. Now children, because of this, more than half of the workers in the country are working in the primary sector, mainly in agriculture, producing only a quarter of GDP. In contrast to this, the secondary and the tertiary sector produces 3/4 of the produce, whereas they employ less than half of the people. Now children, after going through the different graphs, You can think, why does primary sector still continue to employ maximum number of people? In India, there has been a change in the share of three sectors in GDP, but similar shift has not taken place in case of employment. Then, more than half of the workers are working in primary sector, yet producing only a quarter of GDP. Children, the reasons are enough job opportunities were not created in the secondary and the tertiary sectors, though the output of the two sectors went up. Then, existence of underemployment and disguised unemployment in primary sectors. Primary sectors employ more people in agriculture than required. Even if few people are pulled out of production, will not fall. In this sector, people appear to work, but they are working less than their potential and so are not fully employed. Therefore, there exists underemployment and disguised unemployment, due to which the contribution of primary sector to GDP is less, even though it employs number of people or more number of people. Children, what it means is that there are more people in agriculture than is necessary. So, even if you remove a few people out, production will not be affected. In other words, workers in agricultural sector are underemployed. Children, this I'll explain you with the help of one case study. Children, Lakshmi is a farmer, a small farmer, owing about 2 hectares of unirrigated land, dependent only on rain for growing crops like jowar and arhar. All the 5 members of her family works in the plot throughout the year. Why children? Why they all are working in the plot, all the family members? Because they have nowhere else to go for the work. All are working, none remains idle. But children, in actual fact, their labor efforts are divided, or their labor efforts gets divided. Each one is doing some work, but no one is fully employed. This is the situation of underemployment, where people are apparently working, but all of them are made to work less than their potential. This kind of underemployment is hidden in contrast to someone who does not have a job, and clearly visible as unemployed. Hence, it is also called disguised unemployment. Children, now suppose a landlord, Sukhram, comes and hires 1 or 2 member of the family to work on his land. Lakshmi's family is now able to earn some extra income through wages. Since you do not need 5 people to look after that small plot, 2 people moving out does not affect production on their farm. In the above example, 2 people may move to work in a factory. Once again, the earning of the family would increase and they would also continue to produce as much from their land. Children, there are lakhs of farmers like Lakshmi in India. This means that even if we remove a lot of people from agricultural sector and provide them with proper work elsewhere, agricultural production will not suffer. The income of the people who takes up other work would increase the total income of their family. This underemployment can also happen in other sectors. For example, there are thousands of casual workers in the service sector in urban areas who search for daily employment. They are employed as painters, plumbers, repair person, etc. Many of them don't find work every day. Similarly, we see other people of the service sector on the street pushing a cart or selling something where they may spend the whole day but they won't be able to earn, or they earn very little. They are doing this work because they do not have better opportunity. Now, children, how to create employment opportunities. Children, we have seen the disguised unemployment or underemployment in agriculture. There are also people who are not employed at all. In what ways can one increase employment for the people? Now, let's see this with one example. Children, once again take the case of Lakshmi. With her 2 hectare of plot, and we know that her plot is unirrigated. Now, the government can spend some money or bank can provide a loan to construct a well for her family to irrigate the land. Then Lakshmi will be able to irrigate her land and take a second crop, wheat, during the Rabi season. Children, let's suppose that 1 hectare of wheat can produce employment of 2 people for 40 days, including sowing, watering, fertilizer, application, and harvesting. So, 2 more members of the family can be employed in her own field. Now, suppose a new dam is constructed and canals are dug to irrigate many such farms. This could lead to a lot of employment within the agriculture sector itself. Now, suppose children, Lakshmi and the other farmers produce much more than before. They would also need to sell some of this. For this, they may be required to transport their product to a nearby town. If the government invests some money in transportation and storage of crops or makes better rural roads so that mini trucks can reach everywhere, then several farmers like Lakshmi who now have access of water can continue to grow and sell these crops. Children, then Lakshmi's need is not confined to water alone. To cultivate the land, she needs seeds, fertilizers, agricultural equipments, and pump set to draw water. Being a poor farmer, she cannot afford many of these, so she will have to borrow money from moneylenders, and you know that the moneylenders always charges very high rate of interest. If the local banks, if the government banks give her credit at a reasonable rate of interest, she will be able to buy all the things which is required for cultivation. This means that alone, this means that along with water, she will also be able to buy all the things which are required. Children, another way by which we can tackle this problem is to identify, promote, and locate industries and services in semi rural areas where a large number of people may be employed. Children, we can open the cold storage and it will give an opportunity for farmers to store their products like potatoes and onion and sell them when the price is good. In villages near forest areas, we can start honey collection centers where farmers can come and sell wild honeys. It is also possible to set up industries that process vegetable and agricultural produce. This will provide employment in industries located in semi rural areas and not necessarily in large urban centers. Children, we can sum up these case studies with this: how to create more employment opportunities. Now, for this, the government has to provide the loans at lower rate of interest. Then the second one is the government should invest in the rural infrastructure such as building a dam or constructing a road. Then increasing efficiency of transportation and storage. Then promoting small scale industries such as mills, honey collection centers. Then the emphasis on the education and the training center should be given so that they can start their business, their small scale manufacturing in their own villages. Then identifying the potential of an area. For example, an area can be developed as tourist sites, honey collection centers. Then government welfare schemes like making well or pump near farms, providing electricity, building hospitals, etc. Through these efforts, we can increase the job opportunities